Yeah, I figured I'd just call in because I was actually at the game. It was, I don't want to say it was rough, but I think I just had high expectations for Jack Miller especially. Kyle McCord, I figured with him being a freshman, give him time. But Stroud, I thought looked good because the others didn't look good. And it wasn't that Stroud looked bad. It was just Miller. I don't get it. I don't understand how, you see these clips from camp, and obviously they show the good stuff, but it was the complete opposite of what I hoped to see. And to me, I think if anybody tells you it's a quarterback competition for number one, I don't buy that. I think it's more of a competition for two at this point. But like I said in my super chat, the receivers are, it's obvious with the names, but the talent is unbelievable. Marvin Jones Jr. looked like a professional wide receiver.
Marvin Harrison.
I've been to Marvin Harrison.
Gotcha.
He looked incredible. He caught everything thrown at him. He just made it look easy. I think he will be kind of like Smith-Njigba last year, got on the field a lot. I don't know how they're going to keep this guy off of the field. He's just that level of good. As far as the running back, Hendrickson, I think he'll end up starting. I didn't see a whole lot today. Defensive line, I thought looked really good. I was very impressed. I'm finally starting to see out of Zach Harrison what I think a lot of Buckeye fans are hoping for. The first few plays of the game, when he came off the ball, it was lightning quick. Looked great. Jack Sawyer, I think in like a year or two, he's going to have that Chase Young kind of build up, I guess you could say, where he puts on a bunch of muscle and just dominates because he's got that raw talent. So, overall, a lot of good, but there are plenty of things to be concerned with, in my opinion.
So are your concerns still the back seven on defense when you say concerns?
Yes, because I think, the receivers being as good as they were able to pull off a few big-time catches. I know you saw Garrett Wilson make a really, really good catch. And there were some others. But it's hard to tell with so many guys being in and out from last year to this year. And with the quarterback play not as good as hoped, it's hard to tell. I was impressed with Ransom. I think he's going to be really good, especially now that he's going to get more of an opportunity compared to last season. But I still have some concerns. Proctor still didn't look great to me. I have high hopes for him. I just don't know if he'll ever get there. But yeah, I still do have some pretty big concerns there.
Yeah, Ransom got into a couple throwing lanes, broke up a ball or two, and didn't Emeka Egbuka make the catch of the day? I thought it was the best catch that I saw. Was he was running a bit of a slant, and the ball was thrown behind him, and he spun and he was stretched out as far as he could be.
Yeah, he basically did kind of like I guess a baseball slide and then kind of turned himself. It was a great catch. And with him being a freshman too. And it was hard to tell because obviously they don't have the last names on the jerseys in the spring game, but did number 4, forgetting his name, the receiver, you're going to have to help me out.
Number 4, not number 6?
No, number 4, with the best receiver in the country just last year, whatever.
Oh, Fleming.
Did he? Yeah, Fleming. Did he get on the field at all? Because I thought I saw him once, but like I said, with their no last names, whoever is taking snaps is going to have plenty to throw to. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to see, and it's difficult to tell on TV. You were at the game where you get that bird's eye view, almost that coach's film look of the 22 on the field, because to me, that's great that you're able to pick out that Zach Harrison was that explosive off the ball, but generally it's difficult to tell offensive and defensive lines, and especially in the run game. But for me, it's a spring game, even played with no tackling, is similar as you can get to real live game action at the wide receiver and DB positions, and you can see them go at it.
From the TV perspective, what did it look? Did anybody look any better?
This is what I like about the two new guys, Pryor and Henderson. Again, it's nearly impossible to evaluate and compare their running styles and who's going to break tackles and all of that and who's going to run away from people. But those guys, we know that Master Teague is a non-factor in the passing game for the most part. And those guys catch the ball easily. They can turn their hips. They can swing around in the flat, catch the ball wherever it's thrown, and get upfield. And so just to have that option in the passing game when Travion Henderson and Evan Pryor are in the game, I think is a pretty significant upgrade. Now, whether those guys can pass pro at this early stage in their development is probably a concern.
And one thing I don't know if you would notice, but it does seem like Travion has put on a little bit of size. Because coming out of high school, he did look like he was on the thinner side. It looks like he's bulked up.
And to take that same theme, I can't really respond to that, but to take that same theme to another player that you already brought up is that Marvin Harrison, as a freshman, already looks like he's a guy that could be a factor in the goal line in terms of boxing out smaller defensive backs, where he's already not even had a couple months in the weight and training program, and he's already that developed as a high school player to be able to be a physical factor down near the goal line and use his size and his strength, even at this early stage of his development, to be a factor.
That was probably the most noticeable thing with him, other than the fact that he caught literally everything. His size, he just looked apart, because I wouldn't say Ohio State's receivers are small necessarily, but just from a height and length standpoint, he just looked different. And he obviously used that to his ability. And I would say the thing with Emeka Buka, he also, from a physical standpoint, he looked, I guess, ready to go is the right word to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he was undersized or needed a lot of development,
Harrison, to me, looks like he has the advantage of wingspan and shoulders and all that, like Calvin Johnson, Allen Robinson, somebody like that. What impressed me about Ibuka is that he just looks already comfortable, where he has so much ease catching the football. He's very fluid.
One concern I will say, and I'll go ahead and let you get to your program, but the one concern I think to pay attention to, just being there in warm-up and during the game itself, kickers didn't look good. Special teams did not look good.
The one thing I liked about the way Urban Meyer would conduct these spring games is that until he got to see what he wanted out of the special teams, and specifically the kicker, he wouldn't step off the field. And sometimes he wanted to see it from 35 and then 40, then 45, then 50. And, these games are not for us as fans. They're another practice session that we just get to look in on. And, I complained in the earlier show about not seeing tackling in the Ohio State game, but I didn't want that to be taken incorrectly. I'm not criticizing them. I'm just saying, me as a football fan, I just want to see tackling because I can tell more about what's going on and who's dominating and who's not. But in terms of them accomplishing what they want to accomplish, they can conduct it any way they want. But I did like that Urban Meyer would keep those kickers out there and make them kick over and over and over and over. And so that just ran through my mind when the one kick just badly, it was not end over end, it was sideways, spinning sideways, and it just hooked to the left. And I thought, why don't you keep him out there? Make him kick it again.
As a Browns fan myself, seeing Seibert on the back of a kicker's jersey was not helpful.
Well, hi, and how are you, Mark Rogers? It was an entertaining spring game, well, to some extent. Did you get a chance to watch most of it? I know you're doing the Miami uh, as well.
I did. I was a bit divided there for the first half and trying to watch both at the same time. And then I hit DVR and I did the Miami live stream and was able to go back and watch late second quarter, entire second half uninterrupted. And that's why I pushed off this live stream because I wanted to watch the entirety of the game.
Yeah, I mean, from what I observed, number one, Brian Hartline's recruiting is just amazing because I mean, the amount of depth at the wide receiver has just set up Ohio State for years to come. And I think they actually may be in a position here where they may have a player or two transfer out, unfortunately, because, well, they already had one a year ago. I know the one guy that's part of the class, Mookie Cooper, had transferred out. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they keep all those, who's going to be able to get on the field. I mean, obviously, Wilson and Olave, everybody knows they're going to be the starters. It's going to be interesting for me to see is who emerges as the third receiver. I mean, I know a lot of people have talked about Jamison Williams, but, I was excited about what I saw from Marvin Harrison Sr. today. From the little bit we saw from Jackson Smith and Jigba last year, I like what I see there. So, yeah, I think there's plenty of good candidates, no doubt about it, as far as that goes. And again, Mark, if you did a position ranking, tell me a better group of receivers in college football going into 2021 than the Buckeyes.
Well, there's not a deeper one. I'm not going to debate that. At the top end, Olave and Wilson being the two guys, and then you mentioned another three, and we still didn't get to Julian Fleming, who was injured and did not play or may have played a couple snaps. And I love what I saw out of Emeka Egbuka as well. He was impressive and to me made the catch of the day.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just I just always hesitate in answering a question like that when I haven't done my homework to the fullest to be able to state that. But yes, they probably have the best wide receiver core in the nation. I'm confident in saying they have the deepest.
Yeah, I don't think I think there's little doubt about that. Obviously, having your two major guys back and then having that recruiting class from a year ago, which was the best receiver recruiting class in the country in 2020. Then you had a guy like Egbuka this year. So, Marvin Harrison Jr. So, yeah, I think they're set at that position, and they're going to be well set. I mean, even once Olave and Wilson leave for the NFL the next couple of years. I will say this about the quarterbacks real quick. By the way, was there any separation from you between the three quarterbacks you saw, Mark? Or what were your thoughts?
My thought was basically that it's not obvious, but to me, I think McCord has the best arm, just based on what we saw, not by a ridiculous margin that the other guys can't compete. But I believe that Stroud seems to be the guy right now. He just seems to be the most comfortable in doing everything involved with the offense. So I would say that it's Stroud, then it's McCord, and I think Miller. Another caller or comment on the screen was pretty critical of Miller. I don't think that he was atrocious, but I don't think that he in this particular, again, we need to separate this as understanding that that we see this as the one opportunity to see these players, but to the coaches, it's just another opportunity out of 16. And it's probably one of the 3 or 4 most important, but it's not the only one or the most important. And so I don't want to go overboard about one-time evaluations, but Miller was decidedly the third best quarterback on the field.
I think so. Miller, I watched his tape and I was impressed with what I saw on his tape. He did look good, up until he had an interception early on. But I think the one thing with Stroud, I don't know how much of a difference you think it's going to make, Mark. And I've said this with the Ryan Day offense, because it definitely seemed like well, certainly Haskins was playing from the pocket. He was definitely a pure pocket quarterback. But, Fields, to a great degree, it didn't seem like they were doing a lot of the same zone read and, stuff like they did, with J.T. Barrett and Braxton Miller and those guys in the past, in the Urban Meyer era, that, the quarterback was pretty much staying in the pocket the last few years. You think that Stroud's legs help him, or do you think that that's just not going to be as big a factor in the Ryan Day offense?
You gain in two different places. You gain in the pocket on passing situations, pass plays in which you provide that threat to the defense from a guy that, and it's not like McCord's not athletic, but that Stroud is just a better runner. I think that's fairly decisive. That you just provide that ability to break, contain, and pick up a first down with your legs. And then secondly, the read option is such a part of maybe not Ryan Day's offense. It certainly was Urban Meyer's offense, but it's still a portion of the offense that I think it should be taken into consideration. But for me, unless it's razor close, the best passer and the best passer, leader, and technician in commanding the offense and understanding and executing the offense should be the winner of the job. And then if that's razor close, then I take the most mobile guy.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Hey, last comment on the spring game performances. Were you as impressed with Jack Sawyer as I was, Mark?
Yeah, and I've commented that it's difficult, especially in a non-tackling situation in total for the Buckeyes, but even in all these spring games where the quarterback is out of play, just as a flag football type game, that it was obvious that he was overwhelming his man in the times that he was able to get penetration. Yes, he was winning at the point of attack.
Yeah, just getting off the ball, getting around the corner, he was impressed. Hey, I want to make a comment just real quick before I let you go, Mark, on your rankings. I saw your program rankings, and I never got a chance to comment on it real quick. Was your criteria, was that based on like the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? I forgot what, you put into your criteria in making, your determinations.
Well, I will apologize because I saw, after I shut down the live stream, I saw your call and 2 other calls that I somehow missed. So I apologize for that. Basically, in the video that I posted, I displayed at the bottom of the screen everybody's 4-year record, but I did not want it to be overemphasized that I was evaluating programs based on the last 4 years. My assessment is where the program stands right this second, going into 2021. And so there are going to be diminishing values or returns based on what they did in 2020, 19, 18, 17. Some programs, as you well know, are the same exact program today than they were in 2017. Nick Saban, Alabama, nothing's changed.
Sure.
I think Ohio State would be the best example of a coaching change, but with the least amount of change in the quality of the program. And then you've got situations out there all over the place where these programs are quite a bit different than what they were 3 or 4 years ago. So that was just as a point of reference in how they've performed recently. But my attempt was to rank the program today, April of 2021. This is where I believe this program stands in college football, with the condition that it would be impossible for me to go into the categories of facilities and all those things to tend to make a judgment call. But I'm not going to sit here and, do hundreds of hours of research to compare Central Michigan's facilities to Eastern Michigan's facilities. So as much as I would like to take it to that degree, it was basically an evaluation of roster talent, 2020 performance, and how much I thought that was relevant. With some teams, it's not as relevant. Washington, Arizona State in particular, and then their head coach and their coaching staff, and how good I feel about their trajectory toward the future.
Yeah, I would just make a quick comment on that. I heard one of the points that you had made that, you really felt, and I think it's obvious, that Ohio State, the last few times they played Clemson, had outplayed them for what, 6, maybe even 7 of the 8 quarters that they played against them, I think was your comment, right, Mark?
Yep.
Okay. I actually would, I just have to, because I have Clemson as a playoff team coming into this year, kind of like my early predictions, and I have Ohio State at like 5th. So I might give Clemson the slight edge coming into this year. And I, over the last few years, I do have to give them their due credit, even though I know we were the better team in 2019, as well as obviously proving it on the field in 2020. But I just think, body of work, what they've accomplished, and obviously, I think even going into this year, I still might put them in the 2 slot. I just, based on me, and that's being an objective Ohio State fan, because you know how big of an Ohio State fan I am, Mark. So,
I guess for me, it's similar to making a comparison between Georgia and Oklahoma.
Yeah,
if I'm going to make the evaluation of accomplishments, then other than Georgia reaching a national championship game in 2017 and coming within a whisker of winning it, Oklahoma's accomplished more than Georgia, but they also have a lot of built-in benefits to not having to get through the number 1 program in the country to get out of their conference,
right,
and just flat out playing in a better conference. So I gave Georgia the nod over Oklahoma just because I think I was trying to not necessarily just base it on accomplishments, but I legitimately think that Georgia, until proven otherwise on the field and by Oklahoma confirming that their defensive upgrades are permanent, are going to take hold against quality competition, but I still think Georgia's a better program right this second than Oklahoma, or they have a better roster / coaching staff. And I hesitate in that because I think Lincoln Riley has proven himself more as a head coach in game than Kirby Smart, but I still gave the edge to Georgia. And in similar respects, Ohio State over Clemson, because I think Ohio State's had to face tougher competition in the Big Ten. And like you said, that I believe that Ohio State outplayed Clemson for 6 to 7 quarters out of 8 the last 2 years. And I think that means something. I'm not going to go crazy over one game. And I think those 2 through 5 spots are very close. I think the 1 to 2.
No, they are.
I think 1 to 2 is decided, and then 2 to 5 is close.
Well, I think that there's a little bit of a gap. I would say there's a little bit of a gap between 3 and 4 and 5. But I think 4 and 5 are really close. I think 2 and 3 are really close. I think 1 is without question, and then 2 and 3 are close. But 2 and 3 have, in my opinion, separated themselves a little bit from 4 or 5, obviously. And the 4 and 5 comparison is very, very close. I'd go either way on Georgia. But I'm with you. Oklahoma not winning a playoff game yet, I might give Georgia the slight edge, and then playing in a better conference. So
yeah, because if you look at Georgia, not only did they beat Oklahoma head-to-head, albeit a great game, overtime, then they went to the national championship game, and sure, they lost, but they are the only program, the only team since 2017 that has played Alabama 3 times, and each time they were up to the challenge in terms of playing them toe-to-toe in a game that they showed that they belonged. And in 2 of those games had a double-digit lead in the second half.
Right. It's true. Right. Yeah, I think that
Oklahoma played Alabama in 2018. Just weeks after Georgia led Alabama by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter of the SEC championship game, which you could almost call the extension of the playoffs, and lost 35-28. Oklahoma couldn't hang with Alabama a couple weeks later.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's been so close. I mean, I have them as an early playoff team. It'll just come back to quarterback play like it always does for them.
Mm-hmm.
So. Well, as always, a pleasure, Mark Rogers. You take care of yourself, my friend.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it.